Selecting and thinking about the qualities of a new president are the most exciting times in Yale history. And the corporation considers selecting a Yale president as one of its most important responsibilities. In 3 centuries plus 11 years, we've had 22 Yale presidents. Some, and most of them, were very good selections. Only a few were controversial. And there was even a time in Yale history when there was no president, when a controversial president was forced to retire or actually fired in 1722. They couldn't find another suitable candidate until 1726. We often talk about a 20th century president, James Rowland Angell, as being the first president not to hold a Yale degree. But in fact, the first 5 presidents of Yale were all Harvard graduates. Yale, founded in 1701, took a while to produce quality graduates who were prepared to take over the responsibility of running Yale. And it wasn't until they were resettled in New Haven in 1717 that the Yale School began to grow and really prosper. So we actually have 5 presidents, starting with Abraham Pearson, and they were known as rectors in the beginning. A rector did not have the same power as a president does today. The corporation was all-powerful, and they hired a rector who was really like a school principal, who would be the teacher, and in fact really was the only teacher for almost the entire 18th century. Most of the teaching was done by tutors who were young, recent graduates of the college. The person who began to change all of this was President Thomas Clapp. In the first few years of his administration, he was appointed in 1740, he was a rector, and he was able to draw up and have the colony adopt a new charter for Yale, the Yale Charter of 1745, which changed the title to president and made the president a co-equal with the trustees of the corporation, and really almost, you might say, the chairman of the board. He gained much more power than just being the administrative officer of the university, similar perhaps to what a provost would be today. The first president to hold a Yale degree was Napthali Daggett. He graduated from Yale in 1748 and was not really ready to become the president. He was also the first Yale graduate to hold a professorship at Yale. As I said, most of the teaching was done by the president and the tutors. But finally, in 1755, they opened a chair of divinity, and that was offered to Daggett. And then they asked him to be the president. But he didn't feel that he really wanted to take this job on permanently, and so he became president pro tem. However, that pro tem lasted for about 13 years until Ezra Stiles was appointed president. So after 1766, there were 8 presidents who all held Yale degrees. That went from 1766 all the way up until 1921, when James Rowland Angell was elected president. Angell was really unique in Yale history. He had many qualities that were different from any president who had come before him. The president before him, Arthur Twining Hadley, was the first president not to hold a divinity degree and not to be a minister. As they went into the 20th century, and fewer people were studying divinity at Yale, they were preparing people in many professional and graduate schools. They felt it was time to have a non-cleric. And Hadley was the dean of the graduate school and a political economist. After World War I, they felt that they had to go even further into modern times, and they looked about for many new types of people that could be eligible to be president. There was a very strong figure on the Yale Corporation, a lawyer named Samuel Fisher, who felt that they should consider not only Yale professors, as most of them had been, but also professors at other colleges, and even people in the business world. My entire career has been spent at Yale, And I've actually known 7 Yale presidents. Each one appeared to me to have their own unique personality. Kingman Brewster had charisma. His stance on civil rights, on ethics, I mean, it was just really unmatched. Every president has had something. Griswold was not seen very much in my years because he was already terminally ill. But there were many stories about his sparkling personality, his jokes, and even that it was surprising in some ways that he was selected to be president because he was so outspoken. He was always looking for better salaries for the faculty, and was famous for a rubber stamp that he would stamp on all the menus in Morey's that said raise faculty salaries. And that rubber stamp, in fact, is in his papers here in the archives. Giamatti, of course, was a great hit with the students and also with the general public because he spoke on television, he was on talk shows, he wrote for popular magazines, and his love of baseball as a exemplar of life and the qualities of life and relaxation made him also unique. We didn't get to know Hannah Gray very well because she was only acting president a year, but she was a very devoted administrator and served actually as provost during the same time that she was president, because she had been appointed provost 4 years earlier. So as we face the selection of a new president, many people have offered advice and many people have sought advice about what the qualities of a president should be. They seem to be just about everything that one could wish for. Good academic standing, which makes us feel that probably there will be an academician selected, that they will not try anything too unusual for the selection of a president. That they must be a good administrator, they must have all the greatest qualities of character and ethics. In an oral history I conducted a few years ago of chief administrators at Yale in the last 25 or 30 years, the one thing that seemed to come out that they observed about presidents who were the most successful was that they always seemed to be a man for their times. When a really liberal person was needed, such as Kingman Brewster, he was there. When someone who was needed to mend fences and to sort of soothe Yale, Howard Lamar was there for a transition period, leading up to the selection of President Levin, who has been one of the most successful of Yale presidents, academically, financially, and socially, and being accepted on all levels by the students, faculty, staff, and alumni.